Welcome back, my nomads. Welcome back to another Bitcast. We back at it again. What's going on, Zach?
How you doing?
I am chilling. I am exhausted, but it's all good. Life of having a toddler.
Yeah, I keep
How
hearing
about
this,
you?
and I just think you're weak. That's all.
Yeah, okay. Getting like barely any sleep, but it's all good. That's what medication's for.
You know, I'm in the same boat. You don't see me complaining and huffing.
Oh, bro, my kid beats me up constantly.
I feel like in another life you would have been like a male who would have domestic violence, as you would be the victim, and you would have a strong woman beating you up all the time.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. My mother said, hey, even if she's a girl, if she's hitting you, you hit her back, son. That's who raised me, son.
Can we get a hallelujah?
Hallelujah. She said, if she's hitting you like a man, you better hit her back.
Well, hey, the Olympics had that male boxer who was pretending to be a woman beating people up, so I think we're going to have that sooner rather than later, right?
You know, I saw like an article where I keep forgetting her name, but there's this MMA chick. And she's like, I don't know, I think she's like Hispanic or something. Like she is cock diesel, and she's always challenging like male fighters.
That
And it
wouldn't
just
even
got
be
me
fair.
thinking.
The worst UFC fighter would win. That's not even comparable.
And like I see all these like Clarissa Shields is always challenging uh male boxers. Brittany Griner just challenged I can't remember his name, but some guy in the NBA. I'm like, all these female athletes keep challenging dudes. Let them do it. Just go ahead. Sign a waiver. Let it happen. But like I saw a conversation about this. It might have been on Joe Rogan, but they was like, even if they let it happen, dudes, there's something minutes that will just be like, nah, I can't go full tank on you. Like I can't. I'm
Most
like,
men
you know
can't
what?
because it's not.
I'm
You
like, yeah,
win, you win, you lose, you lose. So no
exactly.
matter
Try coming
what,
back from that.
yeah,
Try
if
coming
no
back.
matter what, it doesn't matter, and it's just I just wouldn't even romanticize the idea of it, and I think anyone who would watch it is also severely broken. I mean,
Exactly.
there's nothing
They got that
fun.
like in Russian stuff, and it's crazy.
That's
Like, but
yeah, not
like
here
Chris
though. That wouldn't
Brown and
work here.
Rihanna, that happened like
Oh,
20 years ago, and they're still punishing in this guy. Come on, that was
at
like
some
20
point,
years
move
ago,
on.
and that was out of self defense. Like, what happened? What would you do if you're in your car driving on the highway like 100 miles per hour, and all of a sudden the chick next to you just hits you in the face? Like, you're going to kill both of us? Like, what are you doing? Like, come on,
I'll reserve any comments for you. I will live through you on that. You can say what you want.
bro.
I'll. But speaking of
All I'm
this,
saying is there's a reaction that you have, all humans have, when you get hit in the face, especially in the nose. It's like a fight or flight, and you just.
so this is our first one of the year, and we're just talking about DV on men and women. I love it.
Oh yeah, this is the first one of the year, man. That's
Yeah,
what's
I mean we're
up,
2 weeks into January.
I haven't
A
seen you
lot
since
going
last year. It's
on.
crazy.
Yeah, like a week before Christmas, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
had a nice, lovely month of being busy with other stuff. I hope your year's good, and I'm hopeful. As crazy as this year started, especially living in Vegas, where you had a guy just blow himself up in front of the Trump
Yeah.
hotel, that turned into this whole
Jeez.
thing. So
Jeez.
then we get two attacks, and then we get fires in LA, which I have lots of love for people there because I know a ton of people,
It's
tons of friends
tragic,
from there,
man.
so
Tragic.
it's very sad. I hate seeing people saying "I told you so" because they disagree in terms of however they view, and it's like, dude, like your livelihood's
Yo,
still
people are
gone.
wild. Like people who are trying to blame like the governor and stuff. I'm like, yo, it's a
Well,
natural
you can
disaster.
blame politicians for in terms of their responses, that's it. But in terms of other humans who are losing things, that's a completely different thing. Like you can't do that.
Yeah, like
You can't have
who are
resentment for
these
someone you
people?
disagree with. because you don't like them of how they are, but their entire house is gone. You know, it's I think there's a misconception that everyone in Hollywood is just batshit crazy and they're all super rich, and they're not. You
I
know,
know
like
that's so
I'll
true.
give you Billy
That's so
Crystal
true.
and James Woods as an example. They've been in Hollywood a long time. They probably have had their houses a long time, and they're both gone. It's not like they're still
Hmm.
making a ton of money. You know, that stuff's
Nah.
paid off, and it's been that way. Like we have to have an understanding. That's just how a lot of people are, man. That those houses get passed down. It's not necessarily, you know, these houses are built in the 60s and 70s and stuff, right? In most cases, and now it's gone. Like Pasadena is a great example. Pasadena is old. You know, it's not like
Hmm.
Pacific Palisades where you know you got a lot of celebrities and athletes living there and they're new. Like that's one thing, but majority of the stuff is affecting people who necessarily don't have the means to fix it. You know,
Yeah.
and it's sad. You know, I lived in Southern California for 2 years of my life. You know, and it's you know I have an understanding of yeah, it's crazy. It's how things work, but I still want to wish anyone any ill, and I hope it gets rectified sooner rather than later.
Nah, it's crazy. It just shows how much apathy is going around and stuff. There's some there's some like real sick people out there. Like just because someone's rich, like I haven't seen what you were talking about. I've seen people talking shit just because someone's richer than them, and I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I mean, like technically, those people still kind of live paycheck to paycheck. You know, the cost of living out there is crazy. Not to mention,
It's
you
more
got
than
a
crazy,
man.
dude. It's like average house is $1 million. Like that's average. You know how big
Yeah,
of a mortgage that is.
that's
Just to
crazy.
put in
Not to
perspective,
mention,
you put three
you got
hundred
a
fifty grand
manager.
down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You put 350 grand down on $1 million house. It's still 5 grand a month, 6 grand a month. That's wild. You know, like that. That just it's just like you said. I think there's a deep sickness and decay where people automatically cheer for something awful to happen to someone that they disagree with, and this is where and this is on every side. You know, this is not just
Because we're
specific
talking
to one.
family photos,
All of it,
like
dude.
everything you
Yeah,
own, everything. Like it's crazy. I don't understand it, but
it's where
that's
we're at.
why I stay off of social media
It's toxic,
because
dude.
I'm like,
And you know, this
yeah,
whole the TikTok ban. I'm glad it's happening sooner rather than later. Personally, just because we need less of this stuff just in your face all the time. You know, like and after a while, I don't care how strong you are mentally, being connected to people that you don't even know and you see only the good things that people want to display, that's going to mess with you. And at some point you're going to have this natural need to compare what you have versus what people are displaying, which most of the time is
comparison
not even real, you know? And that
comparison is the
creates its
death of
own sense
happiness.
of neurosis.
Yeah, comparison is the death of happiness. And I mean, we're not as humans, we're not meant to have this much information this fast. It's
Or connected
look
to
at us.
people in general. Like, just look at it. How many relationships that are you are close to, and this is anything that you personally can sustain and keep to keep yourself happy? Like, how many relationships, which means that you're in the know with them, you know what's going on, all that stuff, without the need for like the internet and having that stuff. Like, we really could only maintain so many of them, not
Like a
hundreds.
handful
That
for
you're
me.
right. Right.
Like a handful.
Exactly. That's a lot. Imagine if you're
Yeah.
doing this personally and you got 100 different people that you're paying it to. In this case, you're talking thousands. That's a ton of things, dude. Like, there's no way that doesn't mess with you. You know, like that has to. You know, like that's just a logical thing. You know, it's kind of like what I mean, Aristotle was kind of like the master of that, right? He sees something coming out of the mud, therefore it's made out of mud. Like logic, you see something, physically and you're like, all right, it has to come from there. And sometimes it's true. Like, you know, in this case, you see something that walks like a duck, it probably is a duck, you know?
Yeah, and that's the I don't want to go down the weeds, but that's also the issue with all this information. People are misconstruing facts with imagination, and just getting mixed up. And some things are just black and white, and some people are making them gray. But Yeah, like I try to make steps to avoid that. I only look at notifications on my phone at a certain time of the day. I have an automatic thing on my phone that clicks do not disturb at a certain time of night and doesn't come back on to a certain time in the morning. Like, you got to combat these things, because
Social
it's
media,
going to eat you
especially.
alive. Yeah, it's going to eat your
Instagram,
brain off.
Snapchat, all of my I mean, Facebook, I don't even have an app for. I have to go on the mobile web for it. I look at Facebook maybe once a month if I'm lucky on the mobile web, if I even remember. Messenger's the same thing. Like if people send me stuff, I have to go out of my way, and I have certain times where I'm like, all right, I'll go take a look at it, but I'm not doom scrolling. Like that's a
Dude,
big
that's
thing. Like,
so smart. Cause you know me, I don't really use social media like that. There's really no point in me having these apps because I don't open them.
well, they're invasive to your privacy anyway, right? Like me being in the
Mhm.
industry, I know as soon as you accept the TOS, terms of service, what they access to your
Oh yeah,
phone is unbelievable, and I already have problems with that. So everything's mobile web for me, you
hmm
know, and
yeah.
I do that for a very specific reason. Plus, I don't really want to have. I mean, me and you talk regularly. There's no need for me to go look at your social media. Same with your wife, like stuff like that. Like, I don't care about a lot of stuff. Like, it's just I got too much of my own things I got to absorb. That if I have to go seek it out of people in my main group, it's not worth it. You know.
It's also sad to people who do that, man. But yeah, like you're right, man. You don't need apps for this, especially if you don't use it. Like I don't like because I know it's hard to resist, and don't get me wrong, we're up against like engineers and like
Yeah.
mathematical geniuses and coders who build these platforms that literally tap into your psyche and make you addicted. Like, if you look into the psychosis of how it works with your brain and these dings and ticks, you're fighting an uphill battle, but all the power is in your hands. You literally just have to hit ignore. You literally have to just turn off the notifications. It's crazy because when you buy these phones, the notifications are automatically on. Everything is
And
on.
there's for us, we were the last generation before we really had social media thrown in our face in terms of high school. Like we had it, but it
Right.
wasn't at the level that it is now, right? We had MySpace, obviously, and we had Facebook on a very introductory level, like very
Right.
simple, right?
hmm
Instagram wasn't a thing, Twitter wasn't a thing, really. Um, so now you're telling these kids, or the kids who are like younger than us, 10 years on younger than us, who had it in their face, they had all these different things. Like their attention's been zapped for over a decade. How do you get that out? It's like quitting smoking or anything else. You gotta understand, it's like any addiction virtually, right?
Yeah.
I've quit. I haven't smoked in years. I haven't done, I've had a really strong drug abuse problem for a long time. I got that out. Like, you got to treat it the same way, and the thing is, it's so accessible. When it comes to drugs or anything else, you kind of have to go out of your way in some places to go get it. But this, it's right on your phone. It's right there, you know?
It's right there. It's in the palm of your hands, and because of that, our brains are different. We don't retain the information like we used to. I was hanging out with my two oldest godsons the other day. They're 12 and 14. They get in the car. I'm like, give me your phones. Give them to me.
Mm.
Because they got the earphones in. They got the phones on. I said, give me your phones.
I
Give me your
slap their heads
earphones.
like, nah, you take that stuff out when I'm talking to you.
Exactly. And I'm like, look outside while I'm driving. Like, look, just observe life. And then we get to my house and we play board games for hours. And they love it. And I'm like, y'all want to play a video game or board? No, they just want to play board games. And
Makes me
they
sad.
love it. And
But that's
like,
where we're at,
yeah.
And you have people who are dying on the hill with the TikTok thing. And it's like, just take away, let's just take away that it's owned by China and it's using for
And they're
malicious
using it
reasons.
for what's it called? Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Let's just take that out and let's just do the crux of the issue. And a lot of it that I see is like, well, I get my news from there. I'm like, there is a lot of other ways you can get your news.
Bro, if
Tell
you're
you
getting
that
your
right
news from
now.
TikTok, you have
If
a
you're getting
problem.
your news from TikTok, where half the time you have these people telling you awful financial advice will ultimately lead you to being arrested for tax evasion, no, you should not get your information from these things. Like, it's great to have an understanding of the pulse of society and culture. It's really good for that. But anything else, half the time you have bots who are trying to create conversations with you or spur on certain hot topics in a comment thread on X or Instagram or whatever it is. And this is a great segue to what I wanted to kind of talk to you about, Instagram. And people just get in arguments with this stuff, right? And it's like, and it got really bad in election time, and it's kind of like seeing it simmer down a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to me because Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan's podcast a few days ago, and they are Meta, who owns Facebook and
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. It's removing the fact checkers, which they said was the crux of the issue, um, in terms of like censorship, free speech, all that stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the fact checkers are saying that Mark Zuckerberg's wrong. They were doing a lot of good and all this other stuff, and they're trying to be more like X, where people could be open into discussing topics of conversation that's not typically it's controversial to say the least. But I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
everyone's heard this at this point. But I'm just kind of curious, your thoughts that we had years of very stringent policy from Meta, in particularly,
Mm-hmm.
and what now? Does this solve anything? Does this change anything that now people could have an open forum on Facebook and Instagram again?
Well, I think this might be an overcorrection. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not really a social media guy. But to my understanding, around like 2020, 21, 22, a lot of people on Facebook were getting taken down for just saying I don't want to get the shot, you know.
No, it's
And
true,
then
and
or a mask,
from Zuckerberg's point of view, we
And then
can't
like
we can't prove this, but from what he said on Joe Rogan's show,
mhm,
that the government was the one pressuring him into taking down certain stories, or at least preventing certain stories from circulating on its platform, the Hunter Biden laptop, the COVID vaccine, the efficacy of it, things of that nature, right? That were, quote, misinformation, even though later on it was corrected or redacted or amended, and no one even made, any kind of statement stating that there was a change in terms of like the view on that, right?
yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to stammer out of my mouth. That's exactly what it was, because I'm like, so you were taking off people for having a different opinion, and then years later, what was it? Fauci, I think it was, who sat there and was like, "Oh yeah, we didn't know what we were talking about."
Oh yeah, in the Congress hearing, 2023, I think, right? Yeah,
So people got their accounts taken down and stuff like
yeah,
that, banned, but he's scot free. Some
mm-hmm.
people actually use these social platforms for their businesses. All right,
Yeah.
and they get taken down, but Fauci's in the clear. That's the stuff I have a problem with, and I do think it's an issue because, like you said, Facebook, for years we've known Facebook has been working with the government or for the government or whatever, and then you're taking down stuff that people are like, and some of them, yeah, they might have the style might have been an issue, but I've seen some where people were like, look, I just don't feel comfortable doing this, and then you're banned. You're not within guidelines. Get
Or
out of
talking
here.
about how the virus, was in a lab and there was no proof that it came from a lab, or the
Yeah, and
shot
then
prevents infection and prevents people from giving it to other people and things like that, and there's still people that believe it. I'm like, it doesn't do any of
it
that. Like
doesn't. And it's
I
funny because it's funny that I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but it's funny that you say that because it was there was some truth about the vaccine that came out at the same time that it was released, saying like, look, this is more like a this is like a booster for your immune system. Not even a booster for your immune system.
yeah,
This,
I
this
get what
is
you're
just like
saying.
a supplement, like a vitamin. It might help, it might not. And then some people were like, "Oh, duh, you can't do that," or "This is it." And it's like they was like, "No, there's no guarantee that this is going to prevent it." But I feel like it was the government who was
It
pushing it
was.
because they were trying to. We all know. the government was investing in these companies and trying to get the money,
Or
and
they're lobbied
kudos
at
to
a
those.
minimum, right? Like these companies were lobbying the hell out of these guys at a minimum, and they made a ton of money from it, right? And
Yes.
they wanted, I mean, look, the three main ones, Moderna and Pfizer. You had Moderna and Pfizer as the two big ones. Johnson had their ones that was kind of spiked and had issues and stuff, right? But for the most part, these guys made a ton of money. Like more money than they ever have before, and and they capitalized on a situation that there was a lot of unknowns. And once we started having an understanding with like a year and a half in of like how this stuff works, no one wanted to hear it. They just wanted to continue being fed a lot of fear stuff. And I know hindsight's 2020, but um, you see it now, like it's almost surreal that so many people were like stirred up in this panic, you
Yeah.
know? And
Hmm.
this just goes to show how easy it is to really get 2/3 of the population on your side really quick. You manufacture something like this in a sense that not creating, I mean, in this sense, this virus was created and was played with. I don't think it was intentionally leaked. I think it was leaked because there was a lot of safeguards that weren't being practiced and it just got out and they hit it, or
Yeah.
tried to anyway. And it just spread around, and it got to
Yeah.
that point. And then it was just, and like I said, it capitalized on the moment, right?
Right.
So but what's to prevent something else, mass panic, to happen? If it's aliens, if it's, an asteroid or another virus or whatever it is, like, how are you going to get people to be compliant on the next thing? And I don't know, man. It's kind of freaky to me that you can just get the world literally to shut down like overnight.
Um. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it the government who used social media to push that stuff?
Yes.
Exactly.
Social media
Exactly.
is the
So
easiest way to get people's attention and get your word out the easiest way. People aren't reading newspapers or watching the news. You're going to get some kind of notification on Facebook or Twitter, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, breaking news, this and this. And you're like, oh, crap, And
hmm
look, it's a great tool. Like there's a lot of good that comes with it, but there's a hell of a ton of bad too, and we have to understand that there needs to be, just like anything, and as soon as you have an understanding of what the side effects are, that you got to limit your exposure to it, right? And that means having certain requirements that you can't be under 16 to have it. You can't do this, you can't do that. But how do you enforce those rules without invoking privacy and registration, all that other stuff, right? So,
well, for one,
it's
there shouldn't be phones in schools anymore. I mean, as soon as you enter the classroom, drop it in a bin. That's how I feel. And these kids, they're from what I hear, they're using laptops in the classroom too, so there's no
yeah,
interaction.
no, I agree. I'm kind of split on it. Like, here's the thing: you got to learn discipline. Just because you got it doesn't mean you got to use it, right? I carry my gun around with me in a lot of places that's legal, right? Because my carry
Mm.
license. Does that mean I go out shooting because I have it, like out in public? No, it does not mean that. I have discipline not to go out and start just, flashing it to people. It's the
You
same
don't even have
thing.
to. You don't even have to go that extreme. Like you said, it's a tool. You drive to the store every day. You don't drive over people. You know,
Well, that's
you
extreme too,
drive.
but I get what you're saying. But there needs
Oh
to be
yeah,
a
true.
lack of, there needs to be accountability, right? Like, look,
Exactly.
you got this. We're going to trust you, but that there isn't any of that. There isn't any of that anymore. It's just, and the fact that we have to even have this conversation that just drop your phone in a bin or whatever is just like, why?
But think
Why?
about it too. Like when we went to school, we did have computer class. So we had regular class, pen and paper, interacted with our other students, and then we would go to computer
Yeah, we
class
had
and learn how to
computer
type.
lab time too if we were going to type something up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
way of learning control.
Yeah,
You know.
that doesn't, I feel like, I mean, we can talk about this for the next 50 minutes, and um, we don't know
But
what
at the end of the day,
a
like you
good fix
said,
is. But at least as long as we start having conversations on it, my feeling on the Meta thing is good. I'm glad there should be an open forum. Now there should be limitations that I think
right.
people exploit that they do on X, where people get paid on being creators and saying stuff and whatever gets viral in terms of interactions and stuff. Like, I think that should be limited because people are just getting paid to be grifts, and there's a ton of grifts, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I feel like if you do not provide something that's actually like useful and good, I don't think you should have monetization from it personally, but
I don't want to
I'm not a
belabor the
billionaire that
point
owns this
anymore,
stuff either. So,
but I got a
you know,
question for you. Um, so you know how people on like YouTube, TikTok, stuff like that claim to give you news and stuff like that. Charlemagne the God, however you feel about him, he said something
mm,
that was kind of interesting. He said if you're calling yourself a news platform, you have to have, I think he said, a certificate, a license, or a degree or something like
I
that,
agree.
just like a regular journalist.
Yeah, absolutely. There
Because
should be
regular journalists can,
because this is a
can
different
sue.
medium to spout your information stuff now. Like, it's one thing if you're an editorialist, but you're not a journalist, right? Like, if you're an editorial writer or if you're spouting your opinion, like what Sean Hannity does on Fox News or whoever it is, that's one thing. But if you're starting to spout stuff like it's the truth, there needs to be some level of registry that you have the ability to do this the way that it was originally intended for.
Right.
That obviously mainstream media and journalism has completely gone out the wagon. Like, I understand that, right? And they all have these degrees, and that's a valid argument for people saying, well, all the ones with degrees tend to spout nonsense and misinformation anyways. Like, that's absolutely true. However, before this gets out of control, there needs to be, and turns into like a Nightcrawler type of thing, the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal from like 10 years ago.
Right.
There
Great
needs to
movie.
be like a level of like, hey, you can do this in a tactful way. Show us your ability
Credential.
to do this. And I think,
Because a journalist can be sued. You got to watch
yeah,
how you say what you say.
right,
But these
exactly.
people online are just saying wow stuff. Even not even like I just see people writing posts on Instagram saying wow stuff.
Well, I know.
Like I'm like,
Half of
what?
it's about Jews, and I see it. So I see that we're the reason for a lot of things. So I'm surprised no one's blamed us for the fire yet, believe it or not. But maybe
Oh, it's coming.
may, maybe I'm waiting. I'll just wait for Candace Owens to start on that pathway in another week or so.
Oh yeah, man. Ever since what's his name? Ben
Ben
Shapiro got on
Shapiro
her
just
ass.
launched her.
She's
Yeah,
been all hell on on the Jews, man.
Jesus wasn't a Jew, right? Like, there was a lot of people saying that. Now I'm like, oh God, here we go.
Jesus was a Jew.
Oh, he's a Palestinian to a lot of people. It's like that term didn't even exist yet. All right.
It's like when Iranian chicks be like, "Oh, I'm Persian." No, you're
Nah,
Iranian.
Persians from a long time ago. Anyway, moving
Yeah.
on. I got some stuff I want to talk about else, so I want you to tip. All right, so Mass Effect, you know how much we love it. I'm replaying the 1, 2, and 3 on the PlayStation just because I love the game so much. And I
Sure.
think this 1, 2, and 3 was really a good way to show DEI stuff before woke got out of control, where normal people can enjoy games filled with characters that are full of diversity and all this other stuff in various backgrounds. And it doesn't bother you because it's about aliens with various different backgrounds and understandings and biologies and all this other stuff, kind of like Star Wars, right? Same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's as diverse as it gets. What's better than having a blue alien as a lover type of thing, right?
Right.
Who can
I
who doesn't even have really has one gender and can reproduce with any gender, right? Like, that's fine.
any
That's okay
species.
because this is a specific group of characters that are designed that way, right? You're not forcing a character that was one thing and turned it into something else for the sake of whatever, you know.
You know what
Um,
you're explaining right now?
hmm.
You're explaining the difference between DEI and diversity, true diversity.
Yes. Well, DEI is the forceful nature of diversity and understanding that our version of it is better than yours. That's how I look at it when it comes to like the I guess the forceful nature of it in terms of TV show, like movies and games and stuff. But anyway, the the director of it, or the assistant director, has talked about how the original Paragon Renegade system is going to be back for Mass Effect 5, which is good because a couple things. One, it's going to give you the ability for you to say off the wall shit that are just plain awful. So if you want to be this like cutesy whatever person, this lovable someone who wants to just be all this, you can, or you could be this someone who's off the chain, or a little bit of both, which is great. And
Click RT to shoot the guy. You know,
I love
bring that
it.
back.
I love it, dude. So this playthrough I played mostly Paragon because there were certain moments where I would just kill the person. Like in the first game, you know how like there's that receptionist at Saren's lab, and then she's like, save me, and like I usually shoot her, but I kept her alive this time. She pops up in all the games, and I had no idea because I always shot her. Always shot her.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
back when Mass Effect had a soul, you know. Well, was it EA or BioWare had a soul? You know.
both of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're getting so, and here's the other thing too. They're saying they're keeping the woke stuff out, which to me doesn't mean they're not going to have people of various backgrounds and and ethnicities and identities and stuff in the game, because that kind of correlates with how the characters are. But they're not going to just be so overt that the majority of the people are just happen to be trans or gay or whatever the case happens to be, because they want everyone to be more, you know, aligns with that craziness, right? In terms of being thrown in your face. Because you can have half the characters being gay, but that's not really realistic when less than 6% of the population is, right? You know, so like you have to have, right, exactly. So we'll see. We'll see if this is true and they hold up this stuff. We now know that people are completely against this forceful, in your face things of it. It's okay to have a character with different identities and backgrounds and stuff, but they've already laid the groundwork out for these characters of how they are. Changing it for the sake of whatever they want to push is when I'm going to start having issues with it, right? It's one thing to have a character and bring it in. And it's one thing to have one, maybe, you know, but having a few instances of it, like with Veilguard, where you had the trans orc and stuff like that, like that's just nonsense,
We're
you
not
know?
even going to go down that road.
So,
I have
so
two. I have two concerns.
all right.
One. So basically, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, all those devs are gone. BioWare is not the BioWare it used to be. So the BioWare that made Dragon Age Veilguard is the
Mm,
BioWare that's making Mass Effect 5.
yes.
So my concern is this guy just talking out of his ass? Because
Well,
evidence
they did
shows.
that. They did that with Veilguard, and Veilguard is still having a tough time in terms of, I mean, they might have recouped the 400 million it took to build that thing, but here's the issue that they had with it. They lied to the consumer of how good the game actually was, and they deceived everyone to thinking it was something that it wasn't. That's the crux of the issue. And there's not
Mhm.
going to be any support moving on because everyone moved on to Mass Effect. They're just letting this thing, you buy it, you buy it. If not, whatever. And I'm just afraid that the pathway they kind of took Andromeda, because Andromeda was dipping its toe in the concerns we have right now. How far do they want to pursue this? Do they want to fully commit to something that most people just don't want? Most people are more than accepting of anyone who's different from them, if that means in terms of their identity, their ethnicity, their religion, their orientation, whatever it is. I would be hard pressed unless you're talking some people who are like backwoods or white or neo Nazis or something, which there's not a lot of them, contrary to popular belief. That a lot of people just like, okay, that's fine, do you, but doesn't mean that they want to just have this glaring in their face the entire time either. You know, they want to be the master of their own decision making, and like, if you want to go down that pathway, you can, but you have to do it based on your own choices, not have this just thrown at you.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in 2024. people are speaking with their wallets. There's some things that slip through the cracks because of what's been going on the past 10 years. I mean, look at Furiosa. People talk about how it's a great movie, but because it looked like another girl boss movie, no one went to see it, and it bombed at the box office. And I'm looking at Ubisoft with their new Assassin's Creed. I'm looking at
By the way, do you know the new
CD
release
Project
date they
Red.
have for it?
March.
Yeah, March 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Is happens to be the same day when that cult group released chemical weapons into the subways.
I don't think it has any
No,
correlation with
like
that.
how insensitive is that? Like, oh, we understand Japanese culture better than anyone. Why would you pick that day? It's like picking a game release on 9/11 when it's about war. Why would you do that?
I don't know what it is about Ubisoft, but they just keep doing the wrong
I
thing
understand, like, look,
over
maybe
and
it's just they
over
just
again.
didn't pay attention, but you're claiming that you understand Japanese culture better than anyone, even more than Japanese people. And you just can't, you just have such an oversight with that. I'm like, you couldn't pick any other day. Like, you had to pick that day. It's not like there's a bunch of those days in Japanese history. You couldn't pick any other day, you know?
It's probably going to get delayed anyway.
Probably.
Again. But I'm just looking at CD Project Red with The
Oh,
Witcher 4. And I know
oh
people,
no.
like you said, you read the books and that it was always going to be her. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's true. But in this climate, people are going to run away anyway.
How crazy do you want to get it with it, right? And here's the thing: you have a character in The Witcher 4. Not to divert too much from this, you have a character from Witcher 4, Ciri, who's just so overpowered. How can you have natural creatures on the same level as someone who can stop time? Just curious. Like, what do you do with that? That's just
It's
it's
the
silly.
Superman effect, the Superman issue. How do you create a compelling story with such a powerful
Yeah,
being?
but you don't have any Zods and stasis that can just wake up and go to Earth in Witcher.
True, true. You don't have any kryptonite. So what did they do in the books with her
Nothing.
because she's so
That's
powerful?
it. She was a girl, right? She was a teenager, and then when Garrett was looking for her, and then when everything was realized, and the great the God, what's the name? I can't believe it. Armageddon equivalent.
Mm.
Um,
Conversion or
no, the creatures that
when the
elves.
continents?
Hold on,
Oh, the elf.
hold on. I'll tell you the name. Just
This is
give
dad
me
brain, folks. This is how this
15.
is what
It's not that.
happens.
It's something else. Witcher. Wild Hunt. So it's the Wild Hunt that is like the horsemen of the apocalypse, pretty much.
Right.
And hold on.
So you're basically
Um,
telling me that the game is going beyond the books.
well, the books end with them defeating the Wild Hunt, and then they save, like, they prevent Armageddon to the way that it should. It's like Ragnarok, pretty much. And then she has a choice, and then that's it. Doesn't really go into detail about the games. Kind of like take its own thing, and it goes beyond the books at that point. But it doesn't. There's no
Oh.
specificity of what she's actually going to do, because the last part of the game three was, game three was that Geralt finds her. Depending on how you played the game, she could either become Empress, she can become a Witcher, she can become do her own thing, or whatever it is. And the books don't really go into that, right? So it seems like
So
in
my guess is they
four, it
find a
takes
way to
it
depower
to,
her.
well, she turns into a Witcher in four, right? Which is what the best ending is for you, Witcher 3. And
Mm.
there's no books on any of this stuff, right? Like, this is way beyond the books at this point, right? And we don't have an idea. We don't know how her power, her elder blood, works with being a Witcher. How's that even work, right?
From the trailer, it looks like she's been depowered somehow,
It's probably
some way.
because of her being a Witcher, and she doesn't have the elder power anymore.
Maybe the potions affected her in some
Yeah,
way,
who
in a
knows?
negative way.
It's very fascinating to see how that works. But anyway, for Mass Effect, this is
Mm.
something that they can't, for lack of a better word, fuck up. They can't. They did it once already. They cannot afford to do it again, especially when you have these characters coming back. It's one thing to mess up a whole story arc that are not Shepard and everyone else, but you have characters that are beloved, and you
Yeah,
mess it up. The only people who are going to be clamoring about how great it is are people that can barely spend the money to support your product on Reddit. All right, there are a bunch of wankers that think everything's great and they're betas and they don't understand anything. Like that's what it
bro. How is EA still in business? How have they not been bought out yet by Tencent?
because they make a lot of money, dude. These games make a ton of money. Like just because the games suck doesn't mean they don't make money.
That's true. That's very true. And they made some bangers too, like Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen
You
Order.
know why? Because they let the studio do what they wanted with it.
Yep. Respawn did their thing, man. Did they thing. And EA,
How
and that's
often
I
are
feel
they
like that's the
willing to
business
do
model.
that though? Like, do your thing. I mean, they're like, oh
But
no, look, we made a couple good ones with this. Like, we know more than you know, that type of thing. Like, I think BioWare is on the same path as Bungie.
yes, that's my issue though. It's not just EA. It's like BioWare isn't. It doesn't have the old devs, the old writers. BioWare looks nothing like how it did back
It's a
in the
bunch
day.
of
Same thing with
pankers
Bungie.
writing stuff, thinking they're.
Same thing with
Here's the thing.
Ubisoft.
I hate to break this to a lot of people, but this is the truth. The demographics for people who play games are me and him. For the people who actually spend the money. For everyone else, I'm sorry. I understand you should have content that's tailored to you. I get it, absolutely. But if you want to make money in terms of a business sense, if you're going to continue alienating your main base, you're not going to have a main base.
Yeah, stop blaming your audience, your consumers. Looking at you too, Disney. You know, blaming the low viewership of Skeleton Crew on us. No, it's the Acolyte and all the other bullshit that you put out
And
before
that's
Skeleton Crew.
it's a shame too because the low viewership of Skeleton Crew is purely based on the fact that Acolyte was so bad and they told everyone that this is how it is. And I'm like, Skeleton Crew is actually enjoyable for what it is. I'm not talking in like a grand scheme. It's just enjoyable. It doesn't have anything thrown in your face. It's just enjoyable. And I guess it's just because they've had so much shit thrown at
So
us
much shit.
that just because it's enjoyable, maybe I'm overblowing in my head that it's better than it actually is just because there's no shit. It's just enjoyable.
Yeah, it's probably like I don't know, like a 7 out of 10. But because it's a 7 out of 10, you're like, yo, this is great.
Yo,
We've
this
been
is
having
great
threes for
stuff,
the
man.
longest
This
time.
7 is amazing. It's the igloo effect. If you and a girl who looks like a 5 are stuck in an igloo for 10 years and you have needs, she's going to look like an 8 in like 2 months. That snow reflects light a certain way. So it's the same thing.
Bro, I went to a military school for 4 years. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm, just saying.
Exactly.
We've
Exactly,
all
bro.
been we've all been victims of the webs of it. But anyway,
Exactly.
so,
Exactly,
so
bro.
we're just hoping. Look, here's the thing. I'm going to give Mass Effect this part the benefit of the doubt, just because they did so well with 1, 2, and 3, regardless of the teams and all this other stuff, because of the roots that it has, and I think they understand that they can't mess this up because it's an original IP. They can't mess this up. I feel like at some point, a blind squirrel always gets a nut. At some point, this is going to be the time to get one.
So you're the hopeful one of the two of us. I have no hope. I think they're gonna fuck it up.
Are you going to play it
so
still? You have
maybe
to.
like a few months later,
No, you won't do that to
if I hear
yourself.
good things. If I hear
No,
good
you
things.
won't do that to yourself. Because here's the thing. We're in the business, even if it's bad, that we got to watch it or deal with it sometimes. Acolyte was the exception because we were just tired of the nonsense. But there's sometimes we just have to see it for ourselves.
I still haven't watched Skeleton Crew because I'm like, fuck it.
It's pretty good. You're not missing anything. If you don't watch it, it's okay. But if you do watch it, you'll at least enjoy it. You got out of the 25 minutes and feel like you didn't waste 25 minutes.
And there's people who I trust their judgment, who are true Star Wars fans, who didn't like anything, but they like this, and they're like, yo, you should check it out. I'm like, I'm just over everything Disney,
Have
man.
I understand, but have I ever steered you wrong? How long did it take for me to get you on Bad Batch? And you're like, nah, man, it's animation. I don't want to do that. Clone Wars, it's just so worn out. Ugh. And then you watch it and you're like, damn, man, this is good.
Yeah, I finished it a month ago. It's good, not because it was animation, because I love animation, but
No, the
because
characters are good. You
there's
relate to
there.
them.
I'm so sick of that era. Move on to different stories and different
But it's okay.
times.
But I mean, the different times is tough because if you do that and you're starting over, they don't have anything reliant that they can make something trashy still look good. Like they're
Well,
starting
that's the
over.
problem, though. Like, I got my wish, and they've gone to different times, and they just fucked it up. Like, look at Acolyte, dude. Oh my gosh, bro. Maybe
It
we
wasn't
do
even
need
that
a
far back.
Skywalker.
That's the thing.
I know it was supposed to be 1,000 years, but they only
It's not.
matched it to 100.
It's like 100.
Like, because they say it in episode what 1 or 2. They're like, it was a millennia ago, and then what's her name was like, oh, okay, that's 100 years. I'm like, no, a millennia is 1,000. Who is this chick? Leslie Headland. Who is this chick? She doesn't know how to do
She
basic
can't
math.
count. She don't have enough fingers.
Yeah, I guess
All
that
right.
happens when you're Harvey Weinstein's assistant for so long. Yeah.
Ooh. Got all those
Oh,
fingers in nasty places.
shade by truth. Ooh,
All
but
right. So, look, I'm optimistic about Mass Effect. You're not. That's fine. But I'm still going to play it. And if it's bad, I will finish it. But I won't replay it ever again. All right. List of movies of 2025. I put a list out and sent it over to you. I highlighted some of the ones that kind of caught my attention just because, why not? Snow White. Wow. 4 years in the making in terms of it already being done and they're now releasing it.
bro, first of all, who made this list? Because no one wants to see Snow White. Who's lying? The list is called "All the Movies You Want to See in 2025."
Well, this is
From
USA
Superman
Today.
to
I
Snow
tried to find
White.
a partial, like almost in the middle type of news outlet, and it's just tough to find. Now, Captain America, I'm going to go see.
I'm gonna see, but bro, they've been working on this movie for so long. How many
Harrison
reshoots?
Ford
How many
aged 10
rewrites?
years in the process of them making this movie.
Jeez, and that's saying something. Look at the man. Like, oh my
Hey, dude,
gosh,
he looks good for 83. What are you talking about?
who is this man's manager or agent? Why they keep having him do a young man's game type of roles? Man, he's too old for this shit, bro.
He's a good
He's a
actor. He still
curmudgeon.
has it in terms of acting. If you've ever watched
Yeah, he's still good at acting, but why is he doing superhero and Captain? I mean, Indiana Jones
right.
5. Like,
No, I started watching that. A lot of it's CGI, but Shrinked on Apple TV does a great job.
yeah, I gotta
Fantastic.
check that out.
So Snow White, Thunderbolts, you know,
Yeah, Paddington. I still gotta see the first two Paddingtons. Like I've heard grown men talk about how like Paddington made them cry. Mickey 17 looks interesting by Bong Joon Ho. He's a great director.
he is.
Probably gonna check
And
that
Robert
out.
Pattinson's quirky in this because there's like various versions of him running around.
Yeah, yeah. The trailer looked good, man. Robert Pattinson is an underrated actor, I
Dude,
think,
he
man.
has
We'll
reinvented
see,
himself because he got that stigma from
Twilight.
Twilight. But dude, he can act.
I heard like he didn't even want to do it, but he just needed the money,
Yeah, but
and then
now
he
look
started
at
doing
him.
movies.
He can pick
Yeah,
whatever he wants. He's Batman,
exactly.
which is awesome. He's probably the best Batman. Like he was in
Please
Tenet, the
don't
only
bring
good
that up.
part of Tenet.
Batman delayed until 27. Oh my gosh! Like Jesus.
Okay, Opus. I'm see. Here's the thing with horror movies. I feel like I commit to seeing a horror movie because it looks good in a trailer and it's just awful and it's not what I'm expecting. But the ones that I don't think were going to be good are just whatever. They end up being very good.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I just go by ear by people I know who like horror. I'm like, just send me one
It's
because
so
I
tough to
just
have a good one, right? Like because everyone
yeah
just equates with gore and violence with horror, and it doesn't always have to
yeah
be the
just
case.
disgusting stuff. I'm like, nah, bro, just give me a good horror jump scare or something.
Did you ever see Substance with Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid?
No, but I heard that's great.
All right, first off, because I saw that a while back. Yes, movie's
I heard
great.
it's
It's
great.
disgusting though, but it's great.
I also heard that too.
As soon as I saw it, I'm like, what did I just see? I was like horrified. I'm like, dude, like I've seen some nasty stuff in my life, like in person, like you already know. And it's like, what the heck is this? Like, this is
Mhm.
insane, you know? But it's so good.
Yeah, and it's I saw it somewhere streaming. I gotta check it out. Are you going to see the Thunderbolts?
Yeah.
I'm probably not, but
So here's the thing. Yeah, scroll down a little bit for Thunderbolts. So Florence Pugh, there was this movie she did with Andrew Garfield not too long ago.
oh yeah, you told me it's a good movie.
Fantastic movie, and I was indifferent about her, even though she was in Dune and stuff. But she can act.
Oh
She's
yeah,
kind of cute too, but she's a good actress.
she's always been a good actor. You know, she's one of those few actors who actually deserves the accolades she gets. You know, she's in good stuff. She does good work.
I
You know.
agree. I like her stuff. Now she's so maybe I'll see it because of her. Who knows? Wyatt Russell too. I like Wyatt Russell. He was great in Monarch.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell's good too. He gets slept on. He was good as what's his name, the bad Captain America. Um, he
It's
was
because
so
his
good that
dad,
like
dude. That's
everybody
the
hates
thing.
him.
Like his dad, it's just when you have a legacy like that. Like how do you overcome that? You know?
You either step up to the plate or you're just bad too. Because there's some child actors who are just bad, even though their parents were good actors,
No,
and
he
you're like,
steps up to
oh
the plate.
yeah, he steps up to the plate for sure, man. Are you
Karate
gonna
Kid.
see Karate
No,
Kid?
I'm done with.
Uh, bro, like I stopped after the third season of Cobra Kai. I'm like, yo, this is like like what am
We need to make
I
another blood. There needs to be another blood sport. My favorite martial art
yeah.
movie, dude. I love blood sport.
I'm like, there's martial arts B level and C level martial arts movies that have better fight scenes than Cobra Kai. I'm like, this is like soap opera. This is like CW um martial arts
Oof.
entertainment. Like everything is like the OC, like, oh my gosh, he's dating her now, and we have to fight in a tournament. Like, come on, bro. I had to stop watching. Even my wife was like, I don't want to watch the next season after this. I was like, all right, no problem.
Just
But
Gossip Girl with some fists.
yes, yes, and the fights, and it's crazy because I'm watching, like they always hire like actors who are the main stars in those B and C level movies to be like the
Yep.
guys who got beat up by Ralph Macchio on the show, and I'm like, what? No, like there's like these jack dudes who are like, come on, Ralph
Yeah,
Macchio,
and he
getting beat
just
up.
whacked him. Like, yo, this guy. What the
Ralph
heck? He's got
Macchio
a
is
lot
like
of flesh on him. What
150.
is? Yeah. What is he doing?
He's like 150 soaking wet, and bro, you're definitely wearing a toupee.
It's like him beating up Terry Crews. Like, how's that work?
I'm like, what do we do? I had to stop, bro. I had to stop. And the
Oh
kids are all like
man.
in their they're all almost 30 playing these kids
Dude,
still.
Jackie Chan's in this, right? Like, God, he's what, 70 now? He's got to be 70.
Yeah, he's got to be. But I don't know, bro. Like I saw the trailer and there was a point where he's picks a fight or like a fight goes down and he's fighting alongside Ralph Macchio and I'm like, stop, bro. Ralph
Okay.
Macchio's got to be younger than Keanu Reeves. Like Keanu Reeves did the work. Ralph Macchio, I need
He
you to go to
wants
the
to do,
gym.
Keanu Reeves wants to do another John Wick, but he's like, I just physically can't do it anymore. I'm like, dude, you're 60. I get it. You know, you can't be running
Yeah, he
around
said
like
his
that
knees
anymore.
won't let him do that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speak of the devil, are you going to see Ballerina?
No.
Me neither. Keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. After what I heard of behind the scenes, I'm like, nah. Nope, nope, nope. Like Chad Stahelski, first of all, the new Highlander is getting delayed because of this stupid ass ballerina spinoff. Because Chad
I'd rather
Stahelski,
see Highlander than this garbage.
like Chad Stahelski saw a cut of the movie and was like, no. So they had to do extensive reshoots with Chad Stahelski at the helm. And I'm like,
He's
oh,
like,
you
I don't
messed
want
up
to do this
Highlander.
anymore. I want to do other things. And I'm like, oh, God, you're going to ruin my legacy, aren't you?
Basically, like he's like, oh, that Peacock series also got fucked up. Like, let me step in, because
Yeah, because he wasn't
I'm like,
involved in that at all, right?
no, not at all. And I just
It's a
it
cool
doesn't look.
universe, but you got to pick the right characters for this stuff. And I just feel like so many of them, you don't have enough backstory to make it captivating, right? In the
And I hate
movies,
spin-offs that can't stand on their own. If you're going to be a spin-off, be a spin-off. Don't
right?
sit there and show me John Wick. Don't sit there and show me Ian McShane and Lance Reddick. I'm like, oh, so you're basically just trying to jumpstart your own thing, but
Yeah,
you're
by
still using
stealing from
everybody
others,
else.
and it's supposed to be an independent thing.
So if you're going to have Keanu Reeves and Ian McShane and Lance Reddick in there, why don't you just give me another John Wick instead of this? That's how I'm gonna feel. That's how I feel with spinoffs like this.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm passing. And it's not because she's a chick. Da-da-da. No, I'm like, oh, this is just a cash cow. This isn't like a real whatever. I'm gonna pass. And it happens during John Wick 3 or something like that. So I'm like, why wouldn't I just watch John Wick 3 instead of watching
which is the best one.
this? So don't know what that is.
How to Train Your Dragon live action? Pass, hard pass.
Pass. I don't like these live action remakes. I don't care. People
So
go, oh, it's
wait,
because
you
I
have
don't
Gerard
care that there's a
Butler who
black chick in
actually
it.
played the father in the cartoons, but you're not having Jay Baruchel do
Just
Hiccup.
because Baruchel's like in his 40s, man. He can't play Hiccup.
Sure you can. You CGI him.
No. No. But I just don't like these live action remakes of anything, of any animated thing. They don't work. Show
And
me one
did
that's
you did
worked.
did you see Toothless?
Yeah, he looks the same. So why are we doing this? This is stupid. This is so dumb. Like, oh my
Oh,
god.
look, another Jurassic Park. You know, I like the days when a franchise would have them spaced out every 5 years, not like one every two. And I'm not interested in this one either.
After I saw the first one with Chris Pratt, I was like, yeah, I don't need to see it anymore.
I saw the second one, did not see the third one. Second one, I was like, what are we doing?
So I just found out that they're making another one with Scarlett Johansson. Let me see what this is about.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, DNA samples for
I don't
nomads
know,
and an
man.
effort to life saving drug. Oh God, it's boring. Pass. Move on.
Pass. Why are we still doing this?
Superman.
Superman, are you
Uh,
going to? So I wanted to bring this up earlier because
I don't like
you were
Lex
talking
Luthor
about.
though.
He just looks weird, bald. That's it.
He
But
looks weird. That doesn't even describe it.
he looks like me if I was bald. All right,
You don't have
that
the
would
head
look
shape for it,
scary.
and he doesn't
I do
even
not.
have.
I
Why
do
are we
not have the
doing
head
this?
shape for
I
it.
thought we learned with the last Luthor when we had what's his
Oh,
face?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing?
Oh, bro. But you brought this up earlier about companies who, because we were talking about Skeleton Crew, like people are just so done with the bullshit that they won't see anything next that could be good. And I wonder if that's the case with Superman because DC has just been terrible, terrible,
They've
terrible.
made
The
one good
only,
movie.
yeah, but the only thing that's really been good of the DCU is the stuff that James Gunn has made, like the
Peacemaker.
Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. So I don't know if people are going to watch this or not because it could go. It's like up in the air,
People are gonna watch
you
it.
know.
Superman, dude. Superman always brings it in. Always.
Yeah, that's true. Like I see people online who are like in their 60s and 50s and 70s who are like, I'm seeing this regardless of Superman, and I'm like, you know what? I respect that. You know what I'm saying? I respect it because people are like, "Hey, it's Superman. How can you mess it up?" Well, they can mess it up, but I respect the fact that you like Superman. I don't like Superman. I think he's corny. I don't like. I
Dude,
never liked Superman as a
the
character.
best Lex Luthor was Gene Hackman. I mean,
Mm.
great actor, right? At this point, you might as well just have John Cryer do it. Screw it. Just have him do it. It's better than what we got now.
I think they wanted to go with the whole like juxtaposition of how they're the same age, kind of like a Smallville thing. I loved
But they're
Michael
not
Rosenbaum
because
as
Superman's like doesn't age. That's the thing.
that's true. That's true. Like that's another thing I have an issue with his character. Like he ages from like 1 to 33 because everybody likes to say he's Jesus to 33, and then he stops aging. So I'm like,
Hugo Weaving as Zod was great. Remember him? And as he was Zod,
Hugo,
right?
no, Michael Shannon,
Minus Shannon,
Man
right?
of Steel.
Yeah. All right. Well, that
That was
even
like a
makes it better.
sleeper.
Hugo Weaving could be a great Zod. Just saying, if they want to bring that out, he's a great
I
bad
think
guy.
Weaving's done with big franchise movies. I think he's just done. He
He's
didn't
doing
come
he's
back
doing
from The
Slow
Matrix.
Horses right now, the TV show on Apple TV, which is great.
Yeah, I think he just wants to do stuff like that. Like he was in The Matrix and The Lord of the Rings at the same time. Like,
I know that's so crazy, isn't
come
it?
on, bro.
And he's in the
That's
Marvel
insane.
universe, so
Oh
he's
yeah,
got his.
like he's good, but he doesn't come back. Like he didn't come back for Endgame. He didn't
He
come
did
back for
not.
the Matrix 4. Like
Yep.
he does his thing, and then he just lets it die. Like he just lets it bleed.
But there's a reason why the Red Skull had a minimum role in Endgame because I think you did not want to. You can't take away a guy who does so well with stuff like that.
Yeah, but like I feel like he just doesn't want to come back, and I feel like he's done with franchise stuff. Like he was in two of the biggest franchises with all that green screen and stuff. I think he's just over it. He's green screened out. He's like, let me do smaller projects. Let me do this.
Do
Let me do
stuff that doesn't
TV.
require.
Yeah, I think he just wants to do good written TV
Yeah.
or a good written movie because let's be honest, there's not a lot of good written movies anymore. Um, so he's like, let me just sink my teeth into this, and so that's why he's in Slow Horses. That's the list. But
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
list. All right, so we got two things we can cover. Make this quick. So,
Mm.
how often do you go out to dinner? Like a week, and sit down, and eat.
Maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe twice every 2 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm sure, like you and everyone else, it's just everyone's done with tipping, right? Because I go anywhere, I'm
Oh my god, it's ridiculous. The
getting
tipping
water ice, and
culture.
they're like, "Oh, put whatever tip you want." I'm like, "What do you mean? You're getting paid by the hour. Why do I have to tip you?" You know,
No,
or
I'm talking
coffee,
about
anything and
jobs
stuff like we're
that
on it.
ask you to tip for no reason. Like,
So,
why would I
so
tip my accountant?
exactly, it's like, no, I'm paying
Tipping
you a
culture's
fee
got to
anyway. I don't.
go through.
I'm not going to tip my lawyer. I was like, "What do you mean? Your retainer's the tip." It's the same thing. So that is the reason why people are kind of like tip fatigued. Dude, we got
Mhm.
38% of people tipping 20% or more now. That's crazy.
I mean,
20% used to be the standard for someone who did good stuff, right? Like I do over 20% all the time. Unless they're just so
right.
bad, I give them 15 or 18. But 20% is like, I'm like, I understand it's like food prices is expensive. Like, here's the thing. Why go out if you can't afford the tip too? Like
Facts.
this is a problem. Like a lot of people rely on this stuff, especially where I live. A lot of people are, they survive on the tips, dude. Like that's the only way they make money. Like this is tip. This is like central. Like you tip everyone everywhere with this stuff. Like the valet people, the people that the towel attendant in the bathroom, everyone, the bag person, the everyone. You tip everyone. And I was like, if you can't even do basic things, like don't go out, don't do any of this. Like I feel like anything below 18% is unacceptable, personally.
I mean, facts, man. I mean, um, I was just thinking about this earlier today. Like, some people are so lazy, they'll make themselves poor to be lazy. Like, instead of just cooking your own food, you'll eat out every day and then complain about tips or complain about prices. Like, bro, shut the
I mean,
like.
shit's expensive, I get it, but I just wouldn't go out if things are tight. If you can't afford the tip, don't go out.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you sitting down? Like, if you sit down to eat, tip, bro. If they're good, like I'm a big tipper personally because I've never had a job like that, but I understand. Like, I've had people with jobs like that. I'm like, you you rely on tips, man. I used to be a salesman. You know, you live off commission or whatever.
Mm.
Kind of the same thing. But like, if you can't afford it, you know, with this technology, we were just talking about it earlier. There's no reason for you not to know how to cook. There's slow cookers out there that will cook a whole meal without you touching with touching one touch of a button.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we was growing up, that was a fantasy on like the Jetsons or something like that. Now we literally have that. You throw some ingredients in a slow cooker and press a button.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you gotta do. Like, what are you complaining about? If you can't eat, like the reason I don't eat out as much is because it's considered a luxury for me. Like, I have a wife who likes to cook, and she actually cooks good. Like, so
She does, or you're
I
lying?
prefer. No, no, she really does.
Mm.
So I prefer to come home and eat. Like, I'll be starving sometimes, and I'm like, yo, I'm about to go home and eat what my wife just made. Cause I ain't got the time and the money to be spending all the, and not to mention the food is not as the quality is not as good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they cook with a lot of oils. That's not. It's meant to make it taste good, not to be good for you.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it's like if you can't tip, what the where are your priorities at?
Mm-hmm.
Get
I
your
agree.
ass in your house. Get some. Go to the groceries. Go to Aldi. Aldi has cheap ass groceries and make yourself some noodles or some shit.
On the
Like,
flip
come on,
side, the
what are you
tipping
doing?
thing's out of control too.
Oh yeah, bro.
I hate it.
I forgot where I was at the other day, and I'm like, why would I tip you for this? This isn't a food. It was like some kind of service, not even a service. It was something, and I was like, you want a tip for this?
You don't give them
Nah,
a tip,
bro.
do you?
No,
Okay, good.
you didn't
Because a lot
serve
of
me
people feel
food.
like obligated to. It's like, no, I don't do that. The heck?
No, you got me fucked up. Like, like maybe when I was like, I don't know, in my teens or early 20s, I would have felt a little pressure. But now I'm grown, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
Gallon of
Like,
gas, what it is.
yeah, like, oh, I forgot. I wish I could remember what it was that asked me for a tip, and I was like, bro. It's like, do you want to? No, I don't. Let me sign for this and get out of here. Like, fuck out of here, bro.
All
You didn't
right.
bring me my food. This isn't food at all. Get out of
Last topic before we wrap up here.
here.
Look, here's the thing. You know, we both haven't been single in a while,
Right.
so we understand how the market is in terms of dating and all that, but we don't have to deal with it. So it's funny. 93% of singles want to be in a successful relationship, but say dating is hard. So, first off, a couple things that come out from this that 93% want a successful relationship. One, what does that even look like? Right?
How do you
Because
define a successful relationship?
to me, successful relationships, getting married and having kids, but most people don't want that. So, what is the definition of success now? Right? Because you have almost 60% of people under 50 saying they don't want kids ever,
Mm.
and they don't, and it's like, okay, this is part of the reason why the population issue is the way it is. Like, and it's not because of finances. The number one reason, I think we talked about this before briefly, right? It's like number one reason is because they just don't want any. And that's great. Kids aren't meant for
Well, the economy is
everyone,
shit.
right?
It's expensive as hell to have
It is
kids now.
expensive as hell. However, people still go do their cruises in the Bahamas and they still want things and they go out to eat all the time and all this stuff. It just comes down to the willingness to make sacrifices.
Well, I'm gonna say something that's controversial. Some of
Is it?
y'all people don't need no damn kids, all right?
That's
There's a
true
difference
too.
between wanting to be a parent and wanting to have kids. And I've seen too many people who just want kids for the sake of having kids and are not really parent material.
But there's a lot
Um,
of people who could be good parent material, but they don't want any.
yeah, I've seen some people who would be great parents, but because maybe they're just being too sensible, and they're like, "Hey, we could be poor or we could have kids." I mean, like we could be poor with kids or we can have money without kids. And
Well, it's they're called dinks. Dual income, no kids.
oh, okay, I was like, "Dings." All right, but yeah, I mean, it's funny. Look, I love my kids, but I was just thinking to myself, man, when I didn't have any kids, I was low key rich. now, now I'm
I mean,
like,
for me,
I'm
I guess
po-
I'm in a different boat personally, just because my lifestyle doesn't change because I do extremely well, right? So I can't
Mhm.
see everyone else's, but I know because I've been poor, I've been without a home. Like I know what that is, right? But I
Right.
did wait till I was in a position to where I wouldn't have to worry about that ever, and my lifestyle would never change until I had them, right? And it hasn't, which is great, you know. Um, but the thing
Mhm.
is, yeah, there's people who have kids and they're awful parents. But I mean, let's just be realistic and just be real for a second. Our culture has just swung to a point that even the people who don't have kids are on the same path with people who have kids and are just awful parents. I put them in the same boat. You're just selfish. It's the same thing.
You're just selfish.
No, I'm serious. Like, there's nothing more fulfilling. You don't know until you're in this situation, right? There's nothing more fulfilling than having, working, seeing your kid for the first time all day, or providing something for them, or them just being happy, or just looking at you and loving you and all that. Like, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And then when they get older, you're going to be the main symbol of what a healthy adult should be, what a person with a good relationship is, and what a good parent. Like, you're going to be so many things that, how is that not fulfilling as a legacy? So many people look for purpose, look for things that they're empty, even if they have great careers and have all this stuff and they're just empty. And it's like, that's legacy is more important than anything for me, right? And that
Well,
fulfills all that
bro,
stuff.
that's a tall order because being a parent is a thankless job,
Yes.
and you're asking. There's people who don't even who are afraid to be a cat owner, and you're asking them to be a parent.
No, people
like,
see. No, here's the thing: people take their dogs and they treat them like kids, and they want, oh, look, I'm celebrating Father and Mother's Day, and I have a dog. It's like, that's nonsense.
but you know why, bro? You know why?
Well, yes, because the
Because
dogs die in 10 years.
no, because
It's
dogs.
short lived,
You can gaslight a dog and love it. You could be the worst person in the world, and a
and
dog
so
will
have a
love you.
dog too. Yeah.
You feel me? Like there's some people who just cannot take any kind of like rejection or
Well,
like they
you
can't even have a
coincide it with
cat.
marriage too, right? Like, it's the same thing. People don't get married; they just want to have life partners. It's like, can you not commit to
Oh,
anything? But you're willing to have. But the thing is, you're willing to have a million tattoos and all this other stuff, but you can't commit to something like that. Like, are you afraid, just deep down, like you'd rather just have a clean break if they cheat on
bro,
you,
that
or
this
or
might go on a
or
tangent, but I just saw an article with a celebrity. It's a celebrity marriage, so take it as it is. Where the person was like, "We've been married 20 years and we've never lived in the same state. We see each other every 2 weeks." I'm like, "It's not a marriage. Stop playing. Stop." Like,
it's like, why be married? Why even be with a person then? What's the point?
you got a roommate. You got a friend you see every 2 weeks. Stop playing. All right.
Yeah, with some tax benefits. It's just about it.
stop. Just stop playing, bro. Y'all got separate houses. Y'all live in different states.
So I
Come
said
on.
something like, I wrote something similar like this on Twitter a long, long time, several months ago, right? And I had a lot of women attack me. It was like, selfish, like, that's not being selfish. So I'm like, you've already deluded yourself that the reason why you don't want kids, it's not the people who can't have any and don't have the ability to. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who make the choice because they don't want any. It comes down to, you do not want to be inconvenienced. And I don't care how you want to delude yourself, that lack of wanting to be inconvenienced and all this stuff comes down to selfishness. That's what it is. Looking for
Well,
yourself
nah.
first before anyone else. It's lack of
I,
inconvenience.
I disagree with that. I don't think it's selfish necessarily. I feel like if you're on the fence about having kids, you probably shouldn't have kids because you might not be built for that shit. Like you
So
got to
you're
be a
saying more
different kind
people
of
than not are
person.
not built for it, because we're at a point now where we don't have enough people having enough kids as it is, just to sustain our society.
Is
I
that true?
refuse to
Because I feel
believe
like
that.
there's way too many motherfuckers out here. Like we need
I,
less
I
people.
refuse to believe that, because for it wasn't up until the 90s and 2000s when this started shifting. Like, this, that the shift started happening when our generation started getting old enough to have kids. Like, so, but what you're telling me is like, look, plenty of parents who are boomers who shouldn't have kids, but they ended up raising some good kids because of the kind of people they were.
Bro, if you're on the fence about having kids, you might not be built for this shit.
That's not true because if you're on the fence, that doesn't mean that you won't be a good parent. You could be on the fence about a lot of things,
Bro.
right? No, hold on. Let me do my
Mm,
pitch. Let's just say you're on the fence about bungee jumping or something, anything, right? But you do it anyway, and you end up finding it thrilling and exciting, and you want to do it again, and you make something out of it, right? Like anything. It's the same thing with kids. Like it's an unknown, and because it's an unknown that permanently changes you, that's the thing that scares people, right? But like you, like you've experienced it when you're in the moment. It there is a light bulb that goes off. There's something that just flips, and you can't experience that until you're in that situation, right? But you have to be able to tolerate the risk of unknown and the risk of your life changing forever, though. That's the thing, and a lot of people don't have
I
that tolerance.
Nah, I don't think it's selfishness. Maybe I don't think it that way because I'm thinking of the child first, and what kind of environment would a child be in if someone is going to treat them as a burden or resent them because they can't have the lifestyle they used to have. Like
But
some
that's
like
selfishness, though, because you're treating them as a burden because they don't have the lifestyle they used to have. That's because you're thinking of you first. That's not thinking of anyone else first. You get what I'm saying? You're proving my point.
well, if you're thinking of yourself, then I need you to
No,
keep thinking of yourself instead of having
yes,
a kid.
I agree, but that's a selfish behavior, and that's our society as a whole. We have this rot, and people are thinking of themselves first. They rather do the cruises, they rather have the venti bags, they rather get Starbucks every single day and go out. Like that's what I'm talking about. They don't want that
Mhm.
stuff. They don't want to circumvent that stuff because you're right, it's expensive. Our country and our society doesn't really encourage people and set up them for success in terms of parental leave, in terms of childcare being crazy, in terms of food. Like I understand that, but there are countries that actually put this stuff in place and people still don't have it. Right? Turkey's a great example. They give you crazy leave, they give you unlimited time, they give you like crazy loans and like, grants and stuff for having kids, and people still refuse to have it. And it's just a shift of thinking of yourself first.
Uh,
You get what
I
I'm
see what you're
saying?
saying. I see what you're saying. So this is a worldwide issue. I thought this was just you were talking
No,
about
this is
Americans.
everywhere, dude. The only place that doesn't have it are countries that are predominantly Muslim or Africa. Everywhere else has this issue.
Uh, then it may be a selfish thing, and
It's a Western
I
thing.
hate.
It's a
It might be
Western me thing.
the issue of social media,
Of course.
But I'd rather a child not have a selfish parent. You know,
And then our
that's
society
just how I
collapses, and
feel.
the only people are left are Africans and Muslim dominated countries. Like that's left. That's the only thing we're going to have at some point.
I mean, I think we're still having enough kids.
Our replacement's
Um,
below the replacement rate right now in the U.S. as of right now. So by the end of this century, our population's declining, and the only reason why it's not more is because of immigration. That's the only reason why we have a stable replacement population, is because more people are coming in this country than people are dying, but we don't have enough births. Like right now, we have like 1.7 births per family. It's like, that's not a lot. You need to be like 2.1 is like that number, right? And we're well
damn,
below
you're right.
that.
And I was just thinking this because I'm just thinking in my head without numbers. It's funny that you say that because you're bringing numbers. And I was thinking earlier, I was like, yo, what do we do? Because now people are living longer, and people are living
Yes.
fuller lives. Like, look at the 50
Yes.
year olds compared. Look at the 50-year-olds now compared to the 50-year-olds like 30 years ago. Like
They're not
our
wheelchair
action,
ridden with an oxygen tank. No, dude,
yeah,
they're
our
living
action
lives.
stars are 50-year-olds and
But
60-year
that's
olds.
why
So
people
what?
have kids later too, because in their 30s you're set up. And the thing is, when you're 50 and your kids are graduating high
Especially men.
school, you can
Mhm.
still have a fulfilling life at that point because they're usually set up financially. You can do all the things you want. It's not like you're old, you're middle aged, but
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you can't. If you treat yourself right and you take care of yourself, your faculties are still going to be good enough for you to enjoy and have a fulfilling life afterwards. I don't understand.
Mhm.
This is the issue that I'm trying to conceptualize with people. It's like, I don't understand. And this is why I think of the selfish thing, because they want to have that low risk, low, that high selfish behavior of nothing changes, the lack of inconveniences, all the way up into their 80s until they realize when they're on their deathbed, who's around them? No one.
See, and maybe that's why I think for my case, it's like you're not built for this because you figure it out. When you see that child's
Yes.
face, your priorities get set. Instead of buying that thing, you're like, oh, let me buy diapers, let me buy a car seat. You figure it out. You think you don't
Shit's
have money,
expensive, dude.
but really you do have. Like, I haven't experienced it because me and my wife make good money, but like I've seen people who are less off than us, they figure it
Find a way
out,
to make it work. Yeah.
and they figure it out with
Yeah.
2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids. Like,
Average child care for like, like daycare and stuff's 24 grand a year. It's a lot. I get it 100%. It's just, if someone wants something, a lot of people who want something bad enough, they'll figure out how to get it. That's why you see the people with the name brand stuff and they can't afford it, or the cars, or whatever it is. You can figure it out if you can think about it, but you got to prioritize it, right? And
and
I'm
see,
not
that's what I
saying this is
mean.
for
Like,
everyone, but there is I feel like if there's enough people who would do that, we wouldn't have this conversation so much. And this is obviously not meant for the remaining people that are, obviously there's extenuating circumstances, but the number one reason is because you don't want kids versus you financially can't. Why is it that you don't want any? That's the thing, right? And that's just a global thing in our generation as a whole, you know.
mm, exactly, man. I mean, you know, I think we're saying the same thing, just in a different way. But you're gonna figure it out if you want that child. You know, you think you don't have the money, you think you don't have the resources, but you find a way.
No,
You know,
definitely,
like
definitely.
I make more. Me and my wife make more than my parents did. And they
I
figured it out.
exactly. I mean,
You know,
I've done better than my dad's ever made in his entire life, and
and
I'm
your
thankful
parents
for
had what? How many kids? They
four,
figured it out. They
four
figured it out.
with one income.
Yeah.
And my dad was unemployed for 2.5 years, and then we had to go on state benefits, right? So there's ways of doing this, and it just comes down to prioritization. And I'm telling you, it's worth it. Yes, it sucks like you, and there's risk involved, but it's 100% worth it. But the thing is,
And they're
adversity
scary.
breeds resilience. And at some point, you're going to need that because life
Facts.
sucks. Life's tough. Like at some point, even if I give my kids every single advantage they're going to have, right? In terms of they're not going to have to worry about putting food on the table, basic, they're going to have luxuries, all that. But when they're out on their own and they make mistakes and they have no one to turn to and all this stuff and they're in that hole, what life lessons are they going to draw from for them to get out of it instead of just coming to me first for it, right? For me, I put myself in a lot of holes, but because of I didn't have exactly like the most luxurious like growing up, I was able to kind of figure it out because I understand what it is to have nothing, right? So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't let that
But
risk or that fear of risk prevent you if you want it.
but some people too, it's a fear thing because they don't know if they have what it takes to be a parent. They don't know how that kid's going to turn out. It's me,
It's
me,
so many what
me.
ifs, dude.
And then some people are like, you know, that kid might not love me, right? It's a lot of like people don't understand the difference between having kids and being a parent. Is the parent understands once that kid is in this world, it's got nothing to do with you. Even before the kid is born, once your wife or your whoever is pregnant, it's not about you anymore.
Yeah,
Fuck your feelings.
yeah.
No one cares.
Nope.
It's about that kid.
Nope.
All right.
100%.
And some people just don't understand that.
They
Like
don't want
I,
it, but you
I
can't understand it until you're in that situation. That's what I'm saying. Like that light bulb goes off, and people just don't want that light bulb at all. They don't want to invite it. They don't even want to romanticize it or think about it, or because
yeah.
it's an inherent thing. So I mean, like I said, this is one of those hot button things for me recently, and it's sad. Like, and this is just a symptom of a larger issue about that rot we talked about early in the podcast. About how people don't empathize anymore. Like this is just a symptom of that, man, as a whole. And this is the repercussions of it, and it's not going to get any better, man. You just randomly starting having kids and stuff's not going to change anything. Like people as a whole are worse as quality than ever. I believe that fully.
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors for that reasoning. I mean,
Of
the
course.
education it sucks
You know,
here. The
but when you
social
become an
media has
adult, you know the
created
difference
a
between right and wrong, though.
yeah. But can you see beyond yourself to
Well,
admit that right and wrong? I've seen plenty of people who are just. I'm like, I know you. You know what's right, but you're just being an asshole.
dude,
Like,
me and you grew up in similar circumstances, and we turned out all right with other kids who grew up in similar circumstances, and they use every excuse under the sun not to get better. It doesn't. I don't want to use outside factors for anything when you see examples clear as day, especially with how social media is the way it is. It's not like you're in North Korea and you're devoid of anything different.
mm-hmm. All right, my nomads. I hope you learned some. Um, have babies, but make sure you're in the right situation before you do. If you can't afford a baby, don't have a baby. That's from the words of Michael Jackson. That's not me. Wise words from a wise man. All
Who
right, my
also like little
nomads.
kids.
Allegedly. Never convicted. They tried. Uh, hope you learned something, my nomads. Peace. Be creative.